Welcome to the Imagination Redeemed podcast, where we follow the great stories further up and further in pursuit of the life of Christ.
Welcome back. We have been talking about we songs. Brian Brown, Matthew Clark, Terri Moon. We have finished our longer discussion about the way that that we songs connect us to God, as in us. So we talked about how they connect us to Him vertically, how they connect us to the people of God chronologically, and how they connect us to the people of God on either side of us and around the world now.
Horizontally.
And that's, of course, in the context of Christian we songs. There are folk we songs that have nothing to do with any religion. There are we songs in other religions, but that's the Christian version of them. Now we're going to do something that I think will be a little bit shorter conversation, and that is to talk about a little bit of the how of it by looking at our second general principle, which is that we songs are written on purpose to give us a voice in God's story. In other words, to empower us to sing. So the application of this will be a little bit different for, say, one of your songs, for something that's written for individual voice. And so I would value your perspective on this as we go. So I'll give us the three principles again, and we can talk through them. But some of the things that I will think of most directly are going to be for songs that are designed for corporate singing, designed for us to sing together. So there's a little bit of a different application for them in other contexts. So fair warning. Okay, so we are on the first of our 3 points, point number 4 total. And that is that a we song is written for voice first, not the composer's favorite instrument. So its purpose is to help you sing. Its purpose is not to be a hit on the radio. Its purpose is not to please a producer. It probably did if it got recorded, but that wasn't the primary reason it was getting created. The melody is typically going to stay in or close to 1 octave and in a comfortable middle range. So it's not written for somebody with a super deep bass voice and only they can go that low. It's not written for a super thin, high countertenor voice and only they can go that high. And there's not too much jumping all over the place. It doesn't require you to hit notes only dolphins can hear. And it doesn't depend on having, I would say, a full band or even one specific instrument to sound good. The instruments that are brought to the table, either in a particular recording or in a particular live singing setting, are there to accompany the choir, that is, the people. Again, this is in the context of corporate singing. It's not the people singing along with whatever the band happens to be doing or feels like doing, right? The band is not accompanying the primary singer in the context of a corporate singing environment. All of them are accompanying, whether it's an organ or a piano or a full band or whatever, they're accompanying the singers, that is the congregation, the group of people that's gathered there to sing. So I just eliminated almost all pop music, right? Not because pop music is bad, not because we hate pop music, but because they're usually not we songs. Yeah. Or sometimes they can be. They just sort of accidentally fell into being one. But someone that's writing a we song on purpose is going to be thinking about, it's written in a posture of hospitality for the normal singer's voice.
I love that word. Hospitality. Okay, so you think about that what it really means at its heart is making space for someone else. And that's what a good we song does.
Yeah, and there are a lot of really practical things like you're talking about. Like I remember when I was leading worship, that was sometimes I would change the melody. Oftentimes I would have to lower the key. Or there would be songs that I would reject because the melody maybe for 2/3 of the song, the melody was in a normal range. But then that other third,
goes
it
way
would
up
it
there
would go
high.
somewhere that only a professional singer could handle, and I'm going to lose everybody. Nobody's going to be able to participate.
Yeah.
And so,
right.
it takes a lot of consideration to pick the songs that are going to
Mhm.
be most hospitable for
Yeah.
these people, because the point
Yeah.
is not me performing a song that sounds cool
Yeah.
from the front or wherever I am, but facilitating or making it easy for people to enter in.
Yeah. I like what you said too, Brian, about the band is not the primary thing, and that the people are just singing along with the band. I like to say a lot to my team when we're preparing is that the primary instrument that we have at our worship is the voice of the people, and we're accompanying them, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it's one of the challenges, and I've talked to a lot of contemporary worship leaders that have this problem. They'll try to say that to the congregation, but the songs that they are choosing and the type of music that they are using makes them out a liar.
Really hard.
Right? Like,
yeah.
hey, we're just here to accompany you. Now, try to keep up while we sing something that wasn't written for you and that we're having a heck of a lot of fun playing without you. And that you can't, where you can't hear yourself sing because the amplification is too loud. Right. So like this is probably the closest we're going to get to entering into the worship wars in this conversation, right? Where we're not having a conversation about what type of music is or what type of instrument is appropriate in church. What we are doing though is saying that at a certain point, if 60, 70, 80, 90% of your assumptions, the instruments, the style of music, where the song came from, production factory wise, and how it's all executed, if almost all of that is coming from a pop music perspective, you are going to have to do some really heavy lifting to foster good congregational singing, because you're fighting against the form you have chosen every step of the way.
So you're not talking about you're talking about the principle behind this, not like rules about you can't use that instrument. Because I think if you read Psalm 150, you have to kind of come to the conclusion that, okay, there really is no instrument that's off limits that cannot be used in worship. Well, okay.
But that little cartoon thing that makes like a...
That's
not utilized. I draw the line, sir. I draw the line.
Not utilized frequently enough.
I would be very reluctant to bring a bagpipe into the building, but
there's a cultural context piece, right? Part of the argument that for more contemporary instruments, is the cultural context piece, right? Oh, this is how everyone relates to music now.
Yeah.
But if what you are bringing in with those styles, with those instruments, with the actual songs, is a set of assumptions, including congregational assumptions about what that music is for and who's supposed to sing it and how they're supposed to sing it, again, you're swimming upstream. You're making it hard. To foster a we song environment, to do what we're talking about here, which is giving people a voice in God's story. Again, that's not to say plenty of those songs aren't beautiful. That's not to say there isn't incredible execution of a lot of them. But we are saying if your goal is to give people a voice in God's story, when you're doing an entire genre of music that's not written for the human voice first and has all the assumptions, a different set of assumptions going into it, everybody involved is actually swimming upstream when it comes to the goal of us developing our ability to lift our voices to God.
Yeah, and I think hospitality is a great term. And maybe, the idea of worship leader, if you might think of it in terms of like a musical host.
Yeah.
And someone who is, if you come into my house and it's the first time you're in my house, I'm going to say like, the kitchen is here, the bathroom is through that door. Make yourself at home. Here's where the glasses are. Here's where the drinks are. I'm helping you navigate something that is unfamiliar to you. And I want to do that well. I want to be a very considerate, thoughtful host who is paying attention to if the melody is so weird that you can't follow it. What can I do to to make sure that you have you know that you can be at home here,
Yeah.
and that may
Yeah.
take some process,
Uh-huh.
but it also I have to
Mhm.
be deliberate about hosting.
Yeah.
It's not
Because-
just saying that now I can't hear you all. You got to sing.
And so thinking about different traditions, I was thinking about sometimes you might have a cantor who sings something, or even in the African American church, how a lot of times songs have a sort of host
Yeah.
who sings a line, the line that you're about to sing.
Yeah.
And he sings it
Show you how.
kind of at the end of the last line before the next line, and he says, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound," and then you sing "Amazing," and then so he sets you up every time, and that's an act of
Right.
hospitality.
Yes.
Because he's saying, "We're
Yes.
about to sing this. Let me sing it real quick, and now you can do it."
Yeah.
And or in one of my favorite bands in college, because I got into international student ministry, and there were a lot of folks from India where I was. And we brought in this band called Aradhana, which is a word that just means worship in Hindi. And a lot of those songs, they were coming from a totally different tradition, totally different historical musical background, but they were Christian. And the way that those songs were structured was often different. A lot of times you'd have a sort of cantor sing a verse that you sort of listened to.
Right.
And then there was a chorus that everybody would join in on that was pretty simple and
That's
repetitive.
great.
And everybody kind of knew that worked that way,
I would love to see us do
Yeah.
more of that, more songs
Yeah.
that kind of split the difference between congregational singing and like a story or a ballad sung by a singer-songwriter, where we did this a little bit at our Anselm's Fall Feast this past weekend, at time of recording, where you might have essentially a storyteller that is singing the verses and then a refrain and everybody sings together. We don't do a ton of that
which
anymore,
is kind of a
but it's
liturgical
call and response kind of a
is.
thing.
Yeah. That's I would love to see the Psalms sung that way, with a refrain that people could join in on. I think there's a lot of possibilities there. But what I was thinking about when you were talking about hospitality, Matthew, and about welcoming people in and people that come from different backgrounds, is that if I'm hosting someone at my table, I'm going to have a seat for everybody,
Okay.
and I want everybody to join in and be able to be part of the feast.
And it doesn't mean you can't do complex things, and it doesn't mean that I can only invite people who already know how to do all this.
Yeah.
It means that I might be asking you to enter into something that doesn't feel super comfortable,
Right.
but I want you to know, or familiar, but I want you to know, I'm going to take good care of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you find your way through this thing. And
That's really
what you just said is
good.
so important because it's another area where the singing topic mirrors spiritual disciplines topic. There's so much about being Christian that doesn't come naturally to us.
Yeah.
That we have to learn, that is hard, that is unpleasant because it is hard initially. And there are so many doctrines that we just shy away from because they make us uncomfortable. And then we choose churches that reinforce what we already believe about those doctrines. And
we're missing
it's awful.
so much.
But the premise of our relationship with God is that He is calling us, meeting us where we are, but calling us out of who we are to who He is making us to be. We have to be willing to take those steps of courage. Likewise, if we take this approach to music where I'm just going to go with what I already like, well, I'm going to choose a church whose music reminds me most of when I was young and singing enthusiastically, right? Whether that's 90s Christian pop or whether that's U2. If I choose a church, musically speaking, however, that is going to take me further up and further in, I may have some things to learn along the way. And a good church is going to equip me to learn those things along the way with their hospitality.
Yeah, and that might mean that you giving people permission to maybe say, you can sit this one out and just listen. Let us sing this one over you.
Yeah.
And as you get the hang of it, you can there are lots of ways to be considerate of people and not make them feel like less than, not make them feel stupid for not being able to participate. Because that doesn't help any to belittle people, but to say it's okay if there's a bit of a learning curve, it may be worth it,
And encouraging people also to recognize that my favorite songs are not the only songs we're going to sing.
Yep.
Right.
There are for other people, a song that I may not particularly like that really means a lot to that other person. So as an act of hospitality, I'm willing to sing that for them.
Well, it's like eating dinner with people, and like hopefully we can find something that everybody likes to eat.
Yeah.
But if I'm in a family long term, like I don't love fish that much, but maybe Brian loves fish, and so like I can eat fish today, like with Brian, because I want to eat dinner with Brian.
Right.
More than I want to eat the thing that I want to eat.
Right. There you go. That's great.
Well said. Yeah, and so this is a tricky one. They're written for voice first, just because I think one of the things we're hitting a lot along the way here is just that a lot of grace is in order and a lot of hospitality is in order at every step in the process, because there's almost no music today that is written for the human voice first. Almost none. Either in the sense that it was written for my favorite instrument to begin with. There are tons of pop stars that came up with guitar first. There are others like Rachel Platten or Billy Joel that came up with piano first, and it affects how they sing, and it affects what types of melodies they write. And you can tell, I have a piano background. I can nearly always tell, even if someone's playing guitar, that they were a pianist first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this voice first thing, even if they did write it mostly from that perspective of how am I going to sing it, that's not the same thing as writing it from the perspective of how is everyone going to sing it. And it can't depend on, this is a crucial thing. If you want people to be able to sing to God without all the smoke and mirrors, without all the production value that you have in your sanctuary, you have to be able to create music that does not require them.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. I told Terri this one the other day. See if I can turn around without knocking everything over.
Got it.
But so we were all here the other day, and Terri, you and I were talking about this, and so this is by Keith and Kristen Getty, who write lots of great we songs and who are central players in the revival of hymnody, and I'm very grateful for so much of what they've done. But they wrote a song called Christus Victor, which I love. I really like this song. I want to just play through it real quick, though, and I want to show you something. So it goes, O Most High King of the ages, great I am, God of wonders. By the blood you have redeemed us, led us through mighty waters, our strength, our song, our sure salvation. Now to the Lamb upon the throne, with blessing, honor, glory, power, for the battle you have won. It goes on from there.
Very rousing chorus.
Very rousing.
Yes.
And it does not work without a very loud piano, very loud electric guitar, or a full band. Because you have that note where it goes, our sure salvation. And then you need something to go, boom. Or it doesn't work. So that is a great we song from all the perspectives of the first three things that we talked about: connecting us to God, connecting us to the people of God chronologically, connecting us to each other. It's great. It goes through the Trinity. It goes through past, present, and future of the Christian story. It's great from that perspective. And it's a great melody.
Yeah.
However, it has this particular weakness on this particular point.
You better have a good piano player that day.
I can't have 8 people in my living room. We just got this piano as a gift from a generous friend a few weeks ago. We lived in this house for 5 years with no piano before that. If I had 8 people and let's sing, no one would have suggested that song because we don't have something to go boom.
Right. Everybody gets lost at that moment.
Yep.
So, in church history, the very first instruments were people singing just a cappella. That was Christian worship for centuries, honestly. But you know what the best instrument is? The very best instrument to accompany human singing is an instrument that sounds a lot like voices already, and that's an organ. Yeah, if you've ever been in a room where, Matthew, you and I experienced this summer when Amber played, when you hear the room filled up with the sound of an organ, it's amazing because it fills the room without drowning you out.
Yeah.
It's not about volume. It's about space, filling the space with sound. And it gives you this feeling that I can just add my voice to this, mighty sound. It's really a supportive kind of instrument.
And if you've never heard an organ like we're not talking about like the circus organ that I've been in a couple churches where the organ, that's what it sounded like.
The
organ,
calliope thing.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, okay, you read somewhere that churches were supposed to have an organ, and this is what you bought. And but no, the huge, incredibly expensive pipe organ thing. So like. Probably everyone listening to this has seen Sound of Music. How do you solve a problem like Maria? The Wedding March. That's the kind of organ we're talking about.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I just saw in the news just yesterday that an organ has been unearthed from the 11th century. People think it's the oldest Christian organ in existence. It was used in an abbey in Jerusalem. It was made with bronze pipes, all different sizes. Some of them were named what notes they were playing. And when the Crusaders were worried about the Muslim armies invading Jerusalem, they took that organ, they carried it to Bethlehem, and they buried it so that it could be preserved. And it's just been discovered. They've put it back together, and it's beautiful sound. Beautiful sound these bronze pipes make. Yeah,
that's an amazing story.
Yeah, an ancient instrument.
So the second half of this, if it's written for voice first, in the sense that it's designed to equip you to sing well, the second point for this conversation, and the fifth total point in our We Songs conversation, is it fosters confidence. That's the best way that I can think of to summarize something that's a little more complex, which is that it's reasonably intuitive to learn and remember. And typically, melodically speaking, once you've heard the first verse, you've heard the whole song. So that you can focus on the words and singing confidently and loudly. So I'll give you, some of this might sound obvious, but, and I want to throw a bone to something that you at least alluded to earlier that we didn't touch on in too much detail, which is simply that sometimes we do have to learn things, and you have to recognize, hey, there are songs in some of these hymnals where you're like, that's unsingable. Yeah. Well, it might feel unsingable to us. It might not have felt unsingable to someone in the 1600s when it was written, where all the live entertainment was singing to each other.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you sing a lot, you will eventually branch out into singing in parts, and you will eventually branch out into singing rounds. You will start doing more with your voice as you get more comfortable with your voice in a communal setting. So just having said that, keeping in mind that something that will foster confidence for a typical 21st century American evangelical churchgoer today might be different than fostering confidence for another person somewhere else in the world right now, or the American evangelical 50 years ago, and so on. So, but I'll give you an example of the opposite of what I'm talking about. All pop songs and almost all songs sung in corporate worship in American churches that descend from sort of the pop pedigree are what I will pejoratively call them karaoke songs.
Okay.
So they go like this: verse 1, chorus 1, musical interlude, verse 2, chorus 2 with some of the words different from chorus 1.
Yeah.
Maybe verse 3, chorus 3, longer musical interlude, guitar solo, bridge, completely new tune that came out of nowhere and has nothing to do with anything that's preceded it, as far as me, the casual listener, knows. Key change, chorus 5, chorus 6, chorus 1 again.
I'm confused now.
Right? That's like 9 different times that you ambushed the singers. Right?
Yeah.
All of that is a totally legit pop song. All of that is a totally legit folk song. All of that is a totally legit any kind of song. You're trying to build a musical narrative. You're trying to tell a story. You're like, that's completely
Make it
fine.
interesting.
Yeah. But if I have to remember, and geez, some of my favorite hymns do this. Oh, that's right. This is the time around on the chorus where we change that one word to that other thing instead. So what that dynamic does in a worship song for everything other than the like 3 or 4 favorites for your congregation is it tells everyone in the room, be quiet because you might embarrass yourself. I'm singing loudly and strongly, verse 1, chorus 1, and I start loudly into verse 2, except I forgot there was a musical interlude there, and I was the only one who did it. Right. So I didn't get that from anywhere. I just started noticing it over time. Like, I'm looking around. The confident singers that know all the songs, they're fine. The 2/3 of the congregation that's not those people, they look hesitant. They look tentative. They're scared of what's going to happen next. By contrast, we had a staff and board dinner right here a few days ago, and we all decided that before we ate, as part of our prayer, we would sing Holy, Holy, Holy. Now, did we all know all the words? No. Right? Like we got to verse 3, and some people started going, is that verse 3 or verse 4? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But once we sang that first tune, but first verse, we all knew it, right?
There wasn't a doubt.
There was we didn't have to wonder, is the pianist going to do something funky before verse 2? We didn't have to worry about, is the tune different? Did the words change? I know, musically speaking, I know the whole song after I've heard the first verse. And now I can just lose myself in what I am actually singing.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if there might be a little pushback to say, like, part of the difficulty of that is that we live in a time now where the ability to write and record and distribute and hear and find out about songs that are coming from all over the place just makes it more difficult for any given song to become very, very familiar.
Yeah.
So we have new songs coming at us all the time.
Yep.
And so, because I remember, again, when I was leading worship, there would be, about every week somebody would say, oh, can we sing this song? And I'd be like, I've never heard
it on the radio.
I've never heard of that song. I got to go learn it. And now it's a brand new song. And so I think probably the further back in time you go, you would have communities that would know a sort of set of songs or a little. And of course, that's why we have a hymnals. But that's got to be one of the things that contributes to that, and not just because actually, I think that the sort of verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus is actually a very natural form that I think, because you see it so occurring so frequently, I think it's actually a form that we gravitate towards. One of the things I struggle with is a lot of times melodies, and I think there is a such thing as just a good melody and a bad melody.
Yes.
And so you get a lot of times melodies that are not intuitive, or they're very unnatural. They're just not good melodies.
Right.
And so they might be very weird, and you really got to like contort yourself to get to that melody or rhythms or, they're just ways that if you're not looking at and you don't, like me, I don't read music. So if you've got a strange rhythmic thing, like we were dealing with some of that in the pub songs the other night. And what we were doing, what was written on the paper, felt really unnatural to me.
Yeah.
And so you have to learn those things, and it can be really difficult. But there are ways as a songwriter that you can create situations for yourself where in the songwriting process, you're actually submitting those songs to people and saying, okay, what trips you up? Like, right. But you want to know the stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And if people are like, this part where it goes up here, like, I can't do that. And you say like, okay, well, I need to rework the melody there. or I couldn't follow this rhythmic thing,
Mm-hmm.
or I got really confused, or this lyric doesn't even make sense. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, so you really need accountability. Whereas if you're just writing, individualistically or a pop song, like, you're gonna get feedback from your producer and the people you're working with, but to a different end.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this context,
Mm-hmm.
how can we be most considerate so that people?
Yeah.
And you're talking about confidence as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think unfortunately we live in a culture that the church is one of the only places where we still do this kind of thing.
Yes.
And it's like this bastion of corporate singing,
Yeah.
unless you love this particular band and you go to that concert.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we're doing in corporate singing. And so I think in general, people aren't confident about singing with people. Not because sometimes maybe it doesn't have anything to do with the music, but it's part of kind of where we are culturally. And that's unfortunate. But we do want to make a place where they can congregate and find out that they can do it.
Yeah.
And discover like, oh, this is something people do. Yes, actually, you were made for this.
Yes.
So I just heard two things that I want your opinion on as a music director. One is the notion of a body of songs that everybody knows.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And the other is the notion of a type of singing that people have been equipped to do. Because one of the things that I've noticed on that second point is, the church is pretty much the only place where we get together and sing anymore. But in the church, the vast majority of the time, we just sort of launch into it as though that's normal for everyone. And it's not, right? Where you it's almost like when you become a Christian, we should give you singing lessons. Like, hey, we're going to do this thing that's weird. You've never done this anywhere else. Could we, let's explain to you how this works.
What if a small group was just about that?
Yeah. So those are two things, a whole bunch of songs that everybody knows, not really a thing. A whole bunch of, or a type of singing everybody knows how to do, also not really a thing. How do you think about those things as a music director?
Oh, man. Well, one thing that I love to do is, you're right. We're as a church, we're trying to find the songs that are our songs, like our body of songs that describe who we are at this time and place. And so that means I'm going to limit myself. We're going to be limiting. We're not going to sing every song there is out there. And we're not going to be trying to keep up with whatever the newest thing is by bringing that into the church. I guess I would say probably 90% when I'm choosing songs for a service, 90% is songs we already know. Maybe one song. And
you can build those in,
One song is new, and I'll try to put it in a place where the congregation doesn't feel like they have to sing necessarily, like during communion where they're walking up front anyway.
Yeah.
And they can listen to it and kind of get accustomed to it. Then maybe the next time I'll bring it and I'll put it in a different spot in the service.
Yeah.
She just made a sneaky argument for communion every week.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I also love it when I feel like the congregation does know this song, to save a verse where we deliberately drop all the instruments out and let them hear themselves singing. I really think that's important because people they discover, oh my gosh, this sounds great. I sound good,
Which is really, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That's really interesting because another thing I've seen church bands do sometimes is if they feel like this is like the quiet verse before we go crazy on the last key change or something, they'll have some of the instruments drop out, or everybody will sing, or will start playing quieter, and the lead vocalist will start singing quieter. And in my opinion, that doesn't work very well in a congregational singing, because now everyone panics. It's another ambush.
Oh, no.
Everybody's like, I gotta sing quieter or someone might hear me. And now it sounds like everybody's whispering.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a very different thing happens when you just cut the instruments entirely. There's that little moment of panic, but then the confident singers launch into it, and then everybody goes, okay, I can hide in that mix. It's all right.
Right.
And then, you so often, not always, but more often than not, you hear that this really powerful and empowering thing of, we can sing.
Yeah. And so, it's developing a culture. That's kind of what you're talking about. Developing a culture where people, you're continually reminding yourselves and each other that this is for everyone. This is not just for the few. I think you referred to this a little bit ago, Matthew, that we live in a culture where we don't have singing together very much, except when we come to church. We also have a culture where people are listening to perfect recordings of someone who's done 20 takes of something, to get it just exactly right. And then they have this feeling that, well, unless I can do that, I can't sing. I'm not born with that. Well, the reality is no one is born with that.
Mm-hmm. I saw a great video of Ed Sheeran a few days ago where he just played on his phone on a talk show a recording of himself singing a certain number of years before. And then he's like, people always tell me you're so talented. And he's like, this is what I sounded like before I worked my butt off and studied a craft for 10 years.
Yeah. So we've talked about singing being a spiritual discipline. I really want to explore that thought a little bit in my own mind. I mean, maybe not all right now, but okay. Well, so we learn to pray together, right? As a congregation.
Lord, teach us to pray.
The Lord's Prayer. He gave us that as a prayer to teach us how to pray. We do it together. We say it corporately. So in the same way, we need songs that are our songs that we sing together,
On that note, a couple thoughts to just sort of tack on to things both of you have said in the last few minutes. One is, I hear you on the form thing, like first chorus, bridge, like that's a familiar form. And I'm not discounting that. I would distinguish that some from like verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, chorus 2.
Oh, you talked about the chorus having different words every time.
Everything's changing all the time. Whereas, like a lot of the old hymns don't have choruses at all. And they sometimes can feel a little bit unnatural, which is why usually very bad songwriters feel compulsive needs to write choruses for them that are not nearly as good as the original melodies.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And frequently when we have songs that are kind of a little bit like that, we often will get to the place where there's the instrumental, interlude, and we'll just go, we're just going to cross that out right there and move right to the next verse, because it works better for the congregation.
So there's that form thing, but also the weird assumption of the dynamic that you guys have described where we're constantly trying to keep up with the radio.
The expectations.
That's an interesting thing to try to keep up with, right? Like, the radio stations, many of which are not even Christian owned anymore, are going to drive our congregational singing, including the substance of it. I think there's a great argument to be made for approaching the songs that your congregation wants to be our songs from a posture of, this isn't, we shouldn't have theologians and pastors over here and worship leaders who's the random guy who plays a guitar over here. This person needs to be a theologian too, and needs to be in dialogue with the pastor, so that you're thinking about what are the songs that represent who we are, that represent what we believe. And if there's a shortage of a particular kind of one, maybe we need to write them. And that song might never make it big on the radio, and it might never be sung by anyone else outside our congregation, but it's ours.
Yeah, I love
that. And then as a sort of counterpoint to that, a cheater way to go into sort of split the difference is what you said about prayers. There are so many famous prayers that have been said and sung by Christians over the centuries, the doxology being a really obvious one. So you can grab onto some of those that are pretty universal, and then you can go anywhere in the world and find that, they're singing that too.
Yeah.
Or there's an old prayer and you feel like there isn't a good melody for it in a contemporary context. So we're going to be the church that writes that melody so we can sing it. And then we find ourselves in this church from another denomination in another part of the country or another part of the world. And they're singing a different tune, but we know those words.
Yeah.
So we don't feel othered.
Yeah.
Even though we don't know the tune.
Yeah. We're not trying to be somebody else. We're trying to express who we are in the story.
And you kind of get the universality of the church and the particularity of our church in literally the same breath. That's fun.
Yes. Yeah.
So Go ahead.
Well, something else that occurs to me, I was thinking, we just had our long expected feast, our Tolkien themed, Anselm conference. And one of the things I was looking at in the talk that I did were songs and music throughout Lord of the Rings. And a section of the talk, I was like, let's just look at some different kinds of songs in this story. There are so many different things that are addressed. There's like a song about hot bath, like enjoying a hot bath, which, is a human experience, right? But it's also this great gift from God. Oh, water hot is a noble thing. And there are songs that are laments. There are songs that are kind of prophetic. There are songs that are funeral songs. There are songs that help you remember your history as a people and preserve the lore and the wisdom of the ages so that you can carry on the shoulders of giants. There's so many, like, songs can do so many different things. And so, like, one of the things that's exciting to me about music is that you can have so many different kinds of songs.
Right.
And I was thinking of settings for maybe like Jack Redford, who's going to set something that is going to really be sung like an art song. It's going to be sung on my behalf. I'm really not expected to sing along, but that's still...
But my heart can sing while I'm listening to that.
And it can be kind of an intercession. It can do a lot of things. And the purpose of that particular kind of song may not be congregational participation, but it's still a component of the church's life, just like the hot water song is,
Yeah.
But yeah, if we're talking about building confidence, or if we're talking about writing songs specifically for people to enter into, I think it's just helpful to really be specific about that context and say,
right.
We're talking about these kinds of songs, and how can we do that really well so that the body is built up?
Yeah. Yeah, well said. And you mentioned way earlier in the conversation the value of knowing the lore, so to speak, being conversant in scriptural imagery. What metaphors does the scriptures use when they talk about God or the people of God, or the symbols or touch points in creation or touch points in the stories of the church. It lowers the volume a lot, lowers the pressure a lot on you to come up with completely new and different and brilliant things all the time, because you can write a song that fundamentally does one thing, one goal that you're setting out to accomplish, but employs so many familiar little references along the way, kind of like you mentioned earlier with blues rock and then some of the musical devices, right? To someone who's being shaped by the songs and the stories of God's people, that song is just exploding with meaning for them. From start to finish.
Oh my gosh, yes. The blues and the gospel culture of music that's a unique thing for our American, time. So it expresses a lot of who we are.
Well, I'll toss in our last one because it's the least complicated, and maybe it jogs something. The last point. So it's written for voice first. It fosters confidence, and it is, despite this accessibility, it offers depth.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So you don't need the PhD in theology or history to understand it, but you can hear it for the millionth time and still get something fresh out of it.
Yeah. Oh well, that's been going on since the beginning of the church. Right there. There was I'm not going to be able to tell you his name, but there was a very famous preacher who was known for his wordsmithing, his ability to communicate very well theology. And what he decided was that the most effective way to communicate the theology that he wanted his congregation to know was to write hymns. So that's what he's really known for today, is the 1,000 of, hymns that he wrote, because music has the ability to lodge in our mind, in our heart. So if you want words to be stuck there, just sing them. Yeah.
Well, and singing works things into us. It inculcates things.
Yes.
In a particular way.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people think that if we, our belief, our faith, our, what we believe will come out in what we sing, which I think is true. But I really think it's more important to view it the other way around. How we sing, what we sing, is actually part of what forms us and shapes us as people. So we really want to have songs that have depth, that are true, that where we're repeating to ourselves the truths that we really want to be formed by.
Yeah, and I think part of the hospitality, part of the skill of whoever's making the songs, wherever they're coming from, is for me, I came up with a gettable diggable, and gettable diggable is like kind of a
Nice.
It's kind of like a way of judging a song as I'm writing it.
Yeah.
I'm saying, okay, is this gettable? Or do you have to like have read these 5 books to have any idea what the heck I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it gettable?
So 4 quartets would not pass muster on this one.
Right.
Yeah.
And that stuff ought to be made too. But in this context, is it gettable? Can people enter into it? But is it also diggable? Is it so superficial or so abstract or so uninteresting that you can't, And some of my favorite songwriters can pull that off really well, where you can listen to the song the first time and you can get it and you can enter into it. And then you can notice something on the 10th time that you didn't notice the first time.
Right.
Or you could go look into something. I like that kind of thing. I like shooting for that, trying to get to that.
You tend to hit that in your songs.
Oh, man, you do.
And Andrew Peterson, nearly all of Andrew Peterson's songs are we songs. They're not mostly not written for congregational singing, but they're all we songs. They connect you to God. They connect you to each other and the universality of human experience. They connect you to a sense of memory, and there's going to be references, and they're all within an octave, and they're all really musically intuitive, and they make sense. And and there's just so much depth. If you don't know the references that he's making, they're good enough on their own that you go, oh, that's beautiful. It's going to stick with me forever. And if you do know the references, you just go, ooh, chef's kiss, right? That's good songwriting.
I think another element of good songwriting is, does the melody fit the words? Like, is it a melody that makes the words come alive? It's not like you're not going to sing really happy words with a really dirgy kind of melody.
Right. So Joyful, Joyful is a great melody for those words, right? Because there's this perfect union.
Melding, yes.
Yeah. And this is where we harp on this with our Arts Guild so much, but you want your craft to elevate over time, and your theology and the depth and richness and maturity of your spiritual life to mature, to grow over time with it, so they can kind of keep pace with each other. Because then I'm writing, they asked me to write a song for the Gloria or for whatever. I know what this is for. I understand what's going on here.
I think sometimes it takes a lot of attentiveness to a song. I think a lot of times songs get included in services that aren't congregational songs.
Yes.
Because somebody just hasn't noticed the difference. Somebody hasn't said, like, oh, this is a cool song. I like the way this song makes me feel. Wouldn't it be cool if we sang this together? But then noticing like, but actually, if songs can do a whole range of things, so you can validly have many different kinds of songs for different occasions, you've got to pay attention and say, like, is that what this song is? Is it doing that?
Is it serving this?
And so I can't just put any song in there. I need to put the kinds of songs that fit this occasion. And that was kind of like Grace Hammond said. She mentioned temperance.
Oh.
And this was a cool point from her talk that stuck with me, because she said, something like abstinence or feasting, it's not one or the other. It depends on the context.
And the time.
What does this particular time call for? What is most fitting and appropriate in this context, in this time? And it doesn't mean that's not a good song or there's something wrong with it, but it means what we're doing right now at this time isn't that.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and at that point, you're back to the very beginning of our conversation and the point you made about sacred and profane art. Or the very first talk that I ever gave as leader of the Anselm Society at an Anselm event was at one of our conferences, and it was just, I think it was maybe 10 minutes. It was a little breakout, that was one of the points that I made. That, like, you got to understand. I use this term sacred and common art,
right,
so that people didn't get hung up on profane. But in both cases, that hey, it's this song over here is to facilitate corporate worship, which means this, and this, and requires this, and this, and necessitates forms that look like this, and this. And then over here you have common art, which is everything else.
Yeah.
And this is really good for approaching the throne room of God.
Right.
And this is really good with discipleship and struggle and reconciling myself to the fact that I don't feel worthy to approach the throne room of God right now. And we need them both, but we have to be able to pay attention to what we're trying to do. I mean, as soon as you get rid of the categories, that's where you start to get messed up, because now you're creating common art like a story, and you feel like you have to shoehorn Jesus into it at every turn. And you have music over here that's being sung in a church that doesn't belong in a church. It wasn't written for one. And you're hurting both. But it's only because you're not paying attention to where they belong.
Right.
You're putting pressure on yourself for the piece of art to do something it wasn't designed to do.
Right. Pay attention to where you are, what the time calls for. I went to the restroom a minute ago, and you have a little sign in your bathroom that says what does it say? The bathroom is...
This bathroom is for singing.
This bathroom is for singing. So...
Great acoustics in there.
Right. So, that's what's the right thing for this place this time. It's like, well, you should probably sing the Water Hot song, the bath song from Tolkien. And I also thought of mourn with those who mourn, rejoice with those who rejoice.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, maybe don't sing the most cheerful, happy song, if the context and the time calls for grieving with that person. Yeah. And we've got songs for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever.
One Sunday after one of our members of our congregation had died, we switched and decided to sing Be Still My Soul.
Oh, man.
The next week. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was Athanasius who wrote extensively about the value of the Psalms for this. It's like the Psalms between the lot of them, every single Psalm doesn't try to do every single thing.
Right.
But across the corpus of the Psalms, it covers every bit of the range of the human psyche.
Yeah. Yes.
And we need our corporate song, our other corporate songs to have more of a range too.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts from you, Terri? I feel like we've been jumping on each other the last couple minutes.
Yeah, no, I think this has been an awesome conversation. I've actually learned a lot that I'm going to take away and do some ruminating over to help me in, with what my task is. But I would really love to hear Matthew sing his song that he wrote about what we're all going to do someday together.
I would too.
Yeah. So this is the last song from a trilogy of albums, and the Well trilogy, and the whole idea is that what has God's ultimate desire for the world been and for us, and what is this sort of telos or the destiny of humanity that God dreamt of before he made us. And my understanding of that is that it is to be with and to be like Jesus. Like we are headed toward the one who he is the firstborn from among the dead, and he's the paradigm, he's the one that, and that includes the unveiling of the face. That means we're going to see God face to face, but it's going to be kind of a mutual unveiling, because the bride will also be unveiled, and when we see him seeing us, we will finally become all that God dreamt of us and desired for us to be, and kind of defining the idea of dream as a desire that love brings to be. So he's working all things to this end, to those who call on his name. They can be there in front of his face and come home and become ourselves. But that's also a corporate identity, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just that I get to be who I want to be or think I should be. It's that I become who I am in the bride, as a member of the bride.
Yeah,
and the funny
forward to that.
Before you sing, I just want to throw this on that pile, that I don't know if this is universal or not, but I know for me as a man, those corporate calls in songs speak to me. There's something about being called into being part of something bigger that speaks to me, and there's something about sort of following a great captain, and there's a great line in the Silver Chair where Eustace just says, "I am the king's man," and that's a really powerful line for me. And when all of our songs follow a certain type of relational paradigm and don't leave room for that, it diminishes it, not my voice in the sense of hear me, but in the sense of it makes me less called into sing. And I've met a number of men that are like that as well. Like, give me this greater thing to be called into. Give me a captain to follow. Give me a king to serve.
Yeah.
And paint me this picture of where this is all going. So Matthew, paint me this picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I got to say, it also, you saying that reminds me of Faramir in the Houses of Healing in Lord of the Rings, when Aragorn, he actually sneaks in because he's not ready to claim the kingship in front of everybody, but he sneaks in to help out. And Faramir is in this deep, the black sleep, the black breath has got him. And Faramir calls him out of the depths of that death. And when he wakes, reading it makes me cry, because he says, "I heard you calling. What is my king's bidding? What would you have me do?" And it's just incredibly beautiful. That whole chapter is.
And then when Aragorn answers, he says, "Of course, my lord, for who would lie idle when the king has returned?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we have that charge, that call. The king is calling us. And the kind of the bridge of this starts out and says, "This is a call for the holy saints. Keep watch through the night, bravely bearing the pain."
Go gently now, where the river goes. Whisper soft, where the primrose grows. For the years have passed like the morning mist, every winter waste by the spring sun kissed. And every veil has been removed, and the face of God revealed. And when you see him seeing you, you'll be the dream of God made true. Remember how we were older then. Now the Lord has made us young again. And if we weep at all, it's of a different kind, when the beauty wells up in the eyes and shines. 'Cause every veil has been removed, and the face of God revealed. And when you see him seeing you, you'll be the dream of God made true. This is a call for the holy saints. Keep watch through the night, bravely bearing the pain, while the dragon grins all fire-fanged. The breath of God shall extinguish him. So hold on to the hope that took hold of you. Though you sleep for a time, you will wake in truth. Though these nightmare hooves beat through this midnight dream, they will break when the dawn rends this world that it seems, and the rider arrives on a white war horse to reclaim everything that was lost in the war. You will hear his name like a trumpet blast. Every lover will sing, he is come at last, and the dream of God will be all that remains when the bride looks with love on the Lamb who was slain. 'Cause every veil has been removed and the face of God revealed, and when you see him seeing you, you'll be the dream of God made true.
Awesome.
Like that. Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
For spending this much time talking about this. And for those of you listening, if you make music in any way, write more we songs. Or seek them out and popularize them. And help other people sing them.
Share them with us.
And and if you want to be a part of something like that and don't know where to start, just contact us on our website at anselmsociety.org, because we're starting stuff like that.
Yeah.
Till next time.
The Imagination Redeemed podcast is a production of the Anselm Society. It's easy to see this world as disenchanted and to give up hope that there's more. But you were made to see the world with the eyes of heaven and to live a bountiful life that participates in the life of God, like in the great stories. To help make this show possible, go to anselmsociety.org/podcast25 and make a donation. The Anselm Society is a place where you can come in and experience that beauty, joyful celebration, and ancient wisdom, and go out renewed, bringing that life to your vocation, home, and church. Learn more at anselmsociety.org and join us next time as we pursue a renaissance of the Christian imagination together.